In the high-pressure, high-stakes world of professional poker, it's rare for a new face to walk into the spotlight and immediately own it. But in 2008, a 22-year-old from Denmark named Peter Eastgate did just that. Armed with a calm demeanor, quiet confidence, and a seemingly emotionless exterior, Eastgate wasn't merely another youngster with a dream. He was a silent assassin at the table. They called him the Iceman, not because he played cool, but because he was cold, ice in his veins, stone-faced in the heat of battle, unmoved even when millions of dollars were on the line. No outbursts, no theatrics, just deadly precision. The long road to the final table. Nearly 7,000 players entered the 2008 WSOP main event, each paying $10,000 for a shot at poker immortality. The prize pool swelled to over $64 million, with more than $9 million earmarked for the winner. The path was a minefield of legends, amateurs, and every type of grinder imaginable. Yet by the end of the grueling multi-day tournament, only 9 players remained. Among them sat Peter Eastgate, quiet, unknown, and dangerously underestimated. As the final table began, few predicted the calm-faced kid would be the one hoisting the bracelet. But they soon learned that Eastgate didn't just come to play, he came to dominate. The first major moment for Eastgate came against Chino Ream, a seasoned pro with a reputation for high-risk aggression. Ream, dangerously short-stacked and in survival mode, looked down at Eddie K, a premium hand. He shoved all in, hoping to either double up or force folds. Eastgate, sitting comfortably, held AQ. Most players fold here without hesitation, but Eastgate knew Ream was desperate. He called. The flop brought a Q, giving Eastgate top pair. Ream never improved, and just like that, the biggest name at the table was gone in 7th place. Eastgate's cold red had been spot on. The message was clear. The kid wasn't afraid of anyone.
Chino has squiggled off the hook time and again at this main event. He has to have a king and a king only, or his championship dream is over.
River card is a 4 of hearts, and that's going to do it. Peter Eastgate wins the pot and knocks off Chino Ream in 7th place.
Next came a showdown with the crowd favorite, Dennis Phillips, a lovable amateur with a truckload of fans, donning matching Red Street Louis Cardinals caps. Phillips had built his stack through relentless aggression. But aggression without caution can be punished, and Peter Eastgate had just the tool to do it: pocket aces. Eastgate didn't announce his strength. He made a modest raise, designed to bait. Phillips, holding AJ, couldn't resist. He re-raised. Eastgate just called, masking the monster. The flop came K7-2, dry, uneventful. Phillips checked. Eastgate bet small. Phillips, mistaking the bet for weakness, raised big. But Eastgate wasn't bluffing. He shoved. Phillips quickly folded, shocked, and Eastgate quietly dragged in a massive pot. He hadn't just outplayed him, he had outthought him.
That was the one table.
I'll say this, I prefer it to the tomahawk chop. Oh, sounds pretty good.
And with that pot, Peter Eastgate does move to the top of the leaderboard.
A miracle on the river. Sometimes, poker gives and takes in the cruelest ways. In a dramatic hand against Scott Montgomery, Eastgate held pocket sixes, while Montgomery shoved with a 3. The flop came a 4-key top pair for Montgomery. Then another A on the turn. Montgomery had trips. Eastgate was nearly dead in the hand. Then came the river. 6. From a 2% chance to a full house, Eastgate's expression didn't change, but the room erupted. Even the Iceman had to stand up and acknowledge the miracle.
Only the 6 of diamonds would end Scott Montgomery's main event.
All right, now the river card. Oh! The 6 of diamonds eliminates Scott Montgomery.
My goodness.
What hour?
In a year of bad beats, now that's got to be the baddest of bad beats at the worst possible moment.
Peter Eastgate takes in the remainder of Scott Montgomery's chips. Montgomery out in 5th place, wins over $3 million.
As players were eliminated, The field thinned to a legendary final three: Eastgate, Ivan Demidov, a Russian phenom who had just finished third at the WSOP Europe, and Phillips. Against Phillips again, Eastgate was holding pocket threes. On a flop of AK3, he flopped a set. Phillips had nothing but 10 high but went all in, perhaps out of fatigue, perhaps believing Eastgate was bluffing. Eastgate snapped him off. The turn and river sealed it. Phillips was eliminated in third place. Now the stage was set for one of the most cerebral heads-up battles in WSOP history. The final chapter. Demidov was aggressive, intelligent, and relentless, but Eastgate was unshakable. The duel between them was like watching two chess grandmasters spar with full stacks of chips. In one of the key hands, Demidov raised with a 9. Eastgate called with a speculative 74. The flop came 10k7, bottom pair, and a flush draw for Eastgate. He checked. Demidov checked back. Then came the turn. Eastgate hit his flush. He let out. Demidov, misreading the board, raised. Eastgate flat called, letting the trap spring. The river was a blank. Eastgate checked again. Demidov shoved. Eastgate snap called. Flush. The pot was enormous. Demidov looked stunned. The crowd roared. Eastgate stacked chips like a machine. No fist pump, no smile, just ice. In the final hand of the 2008 WSOP main event, Eastgate held at 5. Demidov limped in with 42. The flop, King K3 to 2, giving Demidov bottom pair and Eastgate a straight draw. The turn was a 4, giving Demidov 2 pair, but completing Eastgate's straight. The chips flew in. Eastgate called Demidov's all in with zero hesitation. The board ran out. Demidov was drawing dead. Peter Eastgate stood up, not with arrogance, but with purpose. The title was his. His performance was a masterclass in patience, discipline, and psychological warfare. He didn't win with theatrics. He won with timing, precision, and silent strength. He was the embodiment of controlled aggression, and the poker world took notice.
I'm all in. I call.
All in and an insta-call, and this is the moment. 22-year-old Peter Eastgate steps into poker history. Peter Eastgate is our 2008 main event champion.
From unknown to unreal again at the World Series. Peter Eastgate, 22 years old, the youngest main event champion ever.
Ivan Demidov, what a player this guy turned out to be this year. Second place wins $5.8 million.
$9 million to Peter Eastgate, and now 7 straight main event champions plucked from obscurity.
Eastgate soaks in the moment, the culmination of many amazing moments from this main event.
Peter Eastgate's legacy and retirement. For many, winning the World Series of Poker main event is a beginning, a launchpad into years of sponsorship deals, television appearances, and poker celebrity. For Peter Eastgate, it marked the opposite. Less than 2 years after his historic victory, Eastgate shocked the poker community by announcing his retirement from professional poker. He wasn't burned out. He wasn't broke. He simply stepped away. In a statement that resonated with both curiosity and admiration, Eastgate explained that he had lost the motivation to continue playing at the highest level. At just 24 years old, with millions in the bank and poker immortality already secured, he wanted something more or something different. The poker world was stunned. Some criticized the decision. Others saw it as a move of rare self-awareness. He had already climbed Everest. What more was there to prove? In an even more remarkable move, Eastgate later auctioned off his WSOP bracelet for charity, raising over $150,000 for UNICEF. It was a gesture that further separated him from the image of the self-indulgent poker millionaire. Eastgate had made his mark and walked away with grace. His departure left behind not just a title, but a mystique. In many ways, Peter Eastgate became a symbol of the modern poker dream. Rise fast, win big, and leave on your own terms. How he changed the game. Peter Eastgate's win wasn't just about youthful success. It marked a shift in poker's global power dynamics. Up until the mid-2000s, most poker legends hailed from the United States. The moneymaker boom had put poker into American living rooms, and the world watched as players like Phil Ivey, Daniel Negreanu, and Doyle Brunson dominated headlines. But Eastgate's victory sent a clear signal. The new Wade was international. He was the first Danish player to win the main event, and his victory ignited a surge in poker's popularity across Europe, especially in Scandinavia. He showed that you didn't need to grow up in Las Vegas card rooms or hustle at American home games to be elite. All you needed was study, discipline, and a willingness to play fearlessly. Eastgate also helped redefine what it meant to be a poker personality. He wasn't loud. He didn't perform for the cameras. He wasn't trying to build a brand. Instead, he reminded fans that poker is a mental game, won through execution, not entertainment. That quiet, analytical style became the blueprint for many of the young European pros who would follow. And at Obrestad, Victor Isildur Wonblom, and Martin Jacobson, to name a few. Comparisons with future stars. Ironically, Eastgate's record as the youngest main event champion would not last long. Just 1 year later, a 21-year-old named Joe Cada would go on to win the 2009 WSOP main event, breaking Eastgate's record by a matter of months. The comparisons were inevitable. Cada was loud where Eastgate was quiet. He played online hyper-aggressively, ran bluffs with fearless abandon, and had to claw back from huge deficits during the final table. His win was a comeback story. Eastgate's was a domination. Both wins were incredible, but stylistically, Eastgate's approach represented the surgically precise, low-variance strategy of a classical grinder, one who builds stacks through strategic consistency, not volatility. While Cada embodied the wild, big-swing nature of the online generation, Eastgate embodied its cold, calculated side. Together, they framed the future of poker, youth, diversity, and the triumph of new styles over old traditions. Impact on the European poker scene. In the wake of Eastgate's victory, poker exploded in Denmark. Card rooms saw increased traffic. Online platforms saw Danish player counts skyrocket. Suddenly, the quiet, analytical Scandinavian style was revered rather than overlooked. Eastgate became a national icon in the poker world, mentioned in the same breath as Gus Hansen, another Danish poker legend, but representing a stark contrast in styles. While Hansen was known for his hyper-aggression and loose image, Eastgate was the blueprint for tight aggressive efficiency. His win also helped legitimize the European poker circuit. Previously seen as a training ground for players before they made the pilgrimage to Las Vegas, the European scene now had its own flagship stars. Young grinders in the UK, Germany, Norway, and Sweden began making deeper runs in major tournaments. Sponsorships started flowing across borders. Eastgate didn't just win the WSOP. He helped shift the center of gravity in the poker world. A champion without a crown. When Peter Eastgate stepped away from poker, he left behind more than just unplayed hands and unopened trophies. He left a philosophy, a model. That poker isn't about charisma, it's about choices. That it's okay to walk away at your peak with your dignity and your winnings intact. And that sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is silence. He'll always be remembered as the Iceman, not just for his emotionless demeanor at the table, but for the chill he sent down the spines of every opponent who dared challenge him. Peter Eastgate didn't just win a championship, he changed poker. Youngest champion, instant legend. In the early hours of the morning, under the dazzling lights of the Penn and Teller Theater in Las Vegas, history was made. Peter Eastgate, a quiet 22-year-old from Odense, Denmark, defied the odds, silenced the skeptics, and carved his name into poker immortality. With one final stoic call, he clinched the 2008 World Series of Poker main event title. And with it, a staggering $9.1 million payday, the coveted WSOP championship bracelet, and a place in the pantheon of poker's all-time greats. But it wasn't just the money that made the moment so powerful. It wasn't even the bracelet. It was how he won. Eastgate didn't swagger his way to victory. He didn't rely on wild bluffs, bold declarations, or heart-pounding suckouts. He wasn't the loudest player at the table. In fact, he may have been the quietest. But beneath that glacial calm was a brilliant mind, a tactical powerhouse that understood the rhythms of the game in a way few ever have. let alone at such a young age. He displayed a brand of mature, controlled poker that players twice his age struggled to master. Every decision he made seemed rooted in logic. Every action was deliberate. He didn't play for the crowd, he played for the pot. And the more chips he won, the colder his demeanor became. No fist pumps, no grins, no visible relief. Just eyes scanning the table, reading the players, dissecting the odds. To his opponents, Eastgate was a mystery, a puzzle that couldn't be solved. He became the youngest WSOP main event champion in history at the time, surpassing Phil Hellmuth's long-standing record that had held since 1989. And while that record would only stand for a year, before Joe Cata etched his own chapter in 2009, it didn't diminish what Eastgate accomplished, because he didn't just win a world championship. He did it on his own terms, silently, flawlessly, and with a mental sharpness that set a new standard for what poker could look like in the modern era. His performance was a masterclass in poker's highest virtues: patience, discipline, and psychological warfare. When other players grew impatient, he waited. When others chased pots, he laid traps. And when the pressure reached its peak, Eastgate didn't blink. He struck. He showed the world that you don't need to be loud to be dangerous. That true strength in poker isn't about dominating the spotlight. It's about dominating your opponent's minds. By the time the final river card hit the felt and the last chip slid his way, it was clear. Peter Eastgate hadn't just survived the largest WSOP field in history up to that point. He had conquered it. With ice in his veins and brilliance behind every move, he didn't simply become champion. He became a legend.